I'd like to call to order the Board of Education business meeting. Could I please have a roll call?
Miller.
Here.
Winkleman.
Ready.
Sanchez.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Wong.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Charles.
Here. Okay, everyone is here. Could I have an approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The agenda is approved. And now we will do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have two of our students here tonight to do the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Evan Halverson and Grayson Francis. Evan is from Fruzen and Grayson is from Robinson School. Would you like to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you for being here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, boys. Okay, announcements. Mr. Winkleman, please.
Good evening. My turn for announcements. The current ones. Thursday, August 1st is called All 220 Day, Administrators Return. So let's celebrate administrators returning. Friday, August 2nd, first day of Administrators Academy. Monday, August 12th, Tuesday, August 13th, Memorial High School student registration. 14th, second day of Administrator Academy. Thursday 15th and Tuesday the 20th, intermediate schools registration. August 19th and Wednesday the 21st, new hire orientation. Thursday, August 22nd, teachers return. Yay, teachers. Friday, August 23rd, Monday, August 26th, district-wide professional development days. Tuesday, August 27th, convocation, 8 a.m. at the auditorium. Wednesday, August 28th, district-wide professional development day in the a.m. and building work in the p.m. Thursday, August 29th, building day, and also back to school night, elementary and intermediate schools. Tuesday, September 3rd, first day of classes. Everybody's excited. Kids are excited. Families are excited. Moms and dads are excited. Tuesday, September 10th, high school open house at 5:30. That is our announcements.
All right, thank you, Mr. Winkleman. And now we have Mr. Vissers.
Yes, good evening, Madam President, school board members, as well as community members listening online and via Public Access TV. Please join me in recognizing some of our newly appointed administrative team for the School District of Beloit. First of all, we have Dr. Stanley Monroe, who officially began his duties on July 1st, and this will be the first of many of his Board of Education meetings that he'll be attending. We have Joanne Armstrong. She is our new Executive Director of Business, Human Resources, and Operations. Ms. Armstrong will oversee all business arenas of the school district, including outsourced partners for transportation services, food services, technology services, and custodial and maintenance services. Ms. Armstrong will work collaboratively with the Board and the Superintendent of Schools through strategic planning, comprehensive needs analysis, and maximizing all resources available to the district. She will also serve as the Director of Finance with the School District of Beloit, or she has served as the Director of Finance with the School District of Beloit for the past 3 years, after serving a year in Rockford Public School District as the Allocations Manager. Prior to her time in Rockford, Ms. Armstrong served as the Accounting Coordinator for the School District of Beloit. Prior to her work in Beloit and Rockford, she served for 13 years in Illinois Public Schools as Human Resources and Finance Offices, and 9 years in Human Resources with various federal agencies. Ms. Armstrong received her undergraduate degree in accounting from the University of Phoenix and will complete her master's in business administration this coming May of 2020. Next, we have Peggy Muhlenkamp. who is going to be our new Executive Director of School Leadership and Equity. Unfortunately, Peggy is out of town on business, so she's not able to be here tonight, but her high priority responsibilities include principal supervision and accountability for student growth. She will oversee all areas of teaching and learning for students and staff through the director and core team. Ms. Muhlenkamp will actualize the goals of the board and the superintendent of schools through district-wide planning, direction, program initiatives, benchmarking, and continuous improvement. She will also assist principals in developing climates of excellence and effective engagement with our parents and our community. Ms. Muhlenkamp joins the School District of Beloit from Janesville, where she served as Assistant Director of Professional Development and led the implementation of a professional growth salary structure. She was instrumental in the development of the Janesville Early Literacy Task Force and is passionate about furthering early literacy in Rock County. Prior to Janesville, she was the Director of Assessment and Professional Development here in the School District of Beloit. And earlier in her career, she served as a reading specialist, literacy coach, and Title I/P5 teacher, also within the School District of Beloit. Ms. Muhlenkamp received her undergraduate degree in elementary education from the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, a master's degree in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis in English as a second language from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. A continuous learner, she has completed numerous certifications, including reading teacher, reading specialist, principal, and director of instruction. She will complete her superintendent's license also this coming May in May of 2020. And then finally, we have Melissa Beavers. She is our new interim executive director of pupil services. She has served in this capacity since last March when Emily Pels was named the interim principal at Memorial High School. She assumes responsibility for all areas of pupil services, including enrollment, special education, paras, teachers, speech and language therapists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, in addition to student services, counselors, social workers, psychologists, nurses, and HRAs. Ms. Beavers has a commitment to raising the academic achievement of all of our children and serving as an advocate for all students, specifically those with disabilities. It is a priority of hers to make sure the focus of all students is that they graduate and are career and college ready. She will work together with the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools to ensure the district is in compliance with state and federal regulations governing the delivery of services to students with disabilities. Ms. Beavers has been with the School District of Beloit since 2007. Prior to that, she had 9 years of teaching experience in Colorado and spent the first 2 years of her career in Beloit working as a special education teacher at McNeil, at that time it was McNeil Middle School, and was then hired in 2009 as a special education program coordinator at Beloit Memorial High School. She has worked at all levels, elementary, intermediate, and high school, as a program coordinator during the past 10 years of her career here in Beloit. She received her undergraduate degree in elementary education from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, and then went to receive her master's degree in special education from the University of Colorado. Furthering her education, Ms. Beavers achieved her educational specialist degree in educational leadership from National Louis University, and most recently attended the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire to obtain her Director in Special Education and Pupil Services certification. And we will be introducing the remainder of the leadership team once they are on board and begin their duties with the school district.
Thank you, Mr. Vissers. And on behalf of the entire school board, I want to say welcome to our new administrators, Ms. Mellencamp, and of course, Dr. Monroe, and our administrators that have new positions, Ms. Armstrong and Ms. Beavers. And we really appreciate your dedication to the district, and we look forward to working with you. And thank you to also here tonight, Mr. Bosco and Mr. Winters, for being here and for continuing on with us. Thank you very much, all of you. Okay, next is public comment. I don't see anyone in the audience tonight, so all we have is television audience, so I will not be reading the... would you like to comment, John? Okay, so we will skip this portion here. Next will be Superintendent's Report, Facility Improvements Update. Mr. Sean Winters, please.
Good evening. As you all know, we have a couple of projects going on, most notably our new district office. And we did a walkthrough last week to do our punch list. We are on schedule. We do plan on tentatively starting with our first move-in on Monday with HR and finance. We are finally getting our elevator put in, which we are 3.5 months behind. That should be done by end of next week. We had our walkthrough with the board last week. As we can tell, it's a beautiful building, not just for us, but for our community. I would say by middle of August, we should be 100% moved in. So, McNeil Kitchen, the servery that we remodeled, or in the process of remodeling, looks really nice. It's going to help with our flow for the students when they pick up their meals. It also gives us a office for the kitchen manager and desperately needed dry storage. And we are on schedule, and we should be substantially complete Friday. So we're on a beautiful schedule with that. Aldrich Kitchen, I should say Aldrich Cafeteria. This is again, like when I spoke of this for board approval, I'm really excited for this addition to the building. We literally took 10 feet off of the building, ripped it off, including the roof, and now we are adding that 10 feet back on, plus an additional, I believe, about 15 feet. The footings are poured, the metal structure is up, we are well underway. I would say by end of next week, we should be enclosed, which is a huge step. We are on schedule with that, excuse me, with that one. There should be substantial completion by the end of September. The nice part about Aldrich is that we have a second cafeteria that we can use until we're ready. But again, we are on time, on budget. It's going to be beautiful. Aldrich and McNeil gym floors, we are resanding down to the bare wood. Again, one of these projects that long overdue. I think we have 20 years on Aldrich's gym floor. It is, the gym floor looks like somebody who drank a lot of coffee and has yellow teeth. It is really yellow, really slick. And again, you know, all these improvements we're doing, these are not behind the scenes improvements. These are in your face. Community look at this, students look at this. There's some long overdue projects. Anyway, the Aldrich and McNeil gym floors, we will start those first week of August, and we should be done a week thereafter. Robinson and McNeil classroom flooring, this is something that we approved recently, and again, we are on schedule with that, and we should be done well before school starts. Again, especially with McNeil, which we added air conditioning to these classrooms last year. Now the smelly carpeting is gone. And Robinson, we are in the process right now of adding air conditioning to the original section. So not only are we getting rid of the smelly carpeting at Robinson, we're also bringing in some great air conditioning. No more hot rooms. So really pleased about that. Cunningham Cafeteria, this is furniture. This is where we are changing the furniture out. We have some issues with the current tables there that are a high maintenance item. The nice part about the furniture that's going in is that this will work in any school if we ever reconfigure our cafeterias. So that should be done about a month after school. And as excited as I am for all these projects, I cannot wait until you talk to some of the staff, some of the teachers. Because again, these are some fantastic projects that, not just dollar-wise, but the impact that we are going to have in these classrooms is going to be tremendous. Because at the end of the day, it is all about our environment, and all about our learning environment. And because of you, we're making this possible. So thank you for your support. Fantastic projects. Any questions at all?
Questions? No? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Winters.
Again, I'm very excited when school starts to have you walk through our buildings. So thank you.
Okay, and now Ms. Armstrong is going to present an overview of Fund 80.
I promise we tested this before we started. I need the airplay. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. We did test this out beforehand, but you know, it's always got to test me on my first presentation to the board, so thanks for being patient. Wanted to just quickly go over a real broad overview of what Fund 80 is and what we can use it for, and kind of the process that has to go into consideration if we're going to move forward. You know, there has been no decision, so this is just informational at this point. First thing we get asked first of all is what is Fund 80 and who can use it? First of all, I want to explain Fund 80. We routinely just say, okay, we're talking about Fund 80. It is a community programs and service fund. So that in definition, it's a mechanism that we can use for educational and recreational activities provided not only to the students of the School District of Beloit, but to the entire community. So everything that we would offer under a Fund 80 program would be open to the public, and that is anybody in our tax district. So allowable programming that we can use is after-school care, recreational activities, fitness, adult outreach, adult education. There's so many opportunities of what we could do to reach our community. Now, who can use it? As I said, open to everyone in the School District of Beloit community. Okay? Okay, why does the school district want to think about considering a Fund 80? the opportunity to offer these community services and programs that we know that our community needs, as well as our students. Again, I've just listed out 5 of them that we can use. Hello. And it would let us align our educational funding that we have right now to use those in more strategic places that will have the most impact on our students, instead of funneling grant dollars into after-school programming and things that we're using it for now. This puts it back at the interventions in the kids' face, in their hands, so that they can learn. Okay? Before you can create a Fund 80, you have to go through a 10-question decision tree to make sure that you understand the purpose and how the program can be administered. So I want to quickly just go over these questions that we need to make sure the board and the community understand about Fund 80 before we move forward. Okay, the first one is, do we have a policy? No, we don't. So today, at the earlier meeting, we took our policy in for first reading. It was presented, it has passed first reading, it will come back again in August for a second reading. Okay? The second step is the district has to consult with their audit firm and the school finance services team at DPI before they even think of instituting this. The purpose for that is to make sure that what our plans, what our thoughts are going into this align with what a community service fund can do. So we have contacted Clifton Larson and Allen, who is our new audit firm. They were formerly Schenck, and Bruce Anderson from DPI. Both have fully agreed that what the intent of the school district's plan in considering a Fund 80 would meet the purview under the guidelines. Okay. Next, are the community programs and services outside of our regular curricular and extracurricular activities? The point with this, you cannot extend your curriculum onto students or participants of the community. It has to be outside of our district curriculum. So yes, we are already proposing that any programming that we would be offered would be enrichment and separate from our current curriculum or extracurricular activities. Okay? Does the school board and all stakeholders understand that if Fund 80 were to no longer exist, these programs could not be absorbed into the general fund? It has to be a separate standalone. So if we were to ever adopt a Fund 80 and then decide to discontinue Fund 80, those programs cannot be moved back into district-funded expenses. Okay? It's just kind of my description. Is the community programs or service restricted only to the students of the school district of Beloit? I keep reiterating this. I want everyone to understand this is open community-wide. If we go this route, anyone in the school district of Beloit tax area can participate. Okay? Is the community service program scheduled in a manner that would restrict participation from non-school district students? No. It would have a wide enough window of participation time that even homeschooled private school students could all come and partake in the activities, as well as our adult living. Okay. Can the related costs for the community programs or services be documented as actual and additional beyond what we're spending in general fund? Absolutely. We will have strict guidelines in how Fund 80 is expended. All expenses will be recorded in Skyward under Fund 80. They will be reported on our budget reports that the board has to approve, and everything will be incurred and expended separately. Okay. Will the community program or service costs be shared with any operational funds? No. As I just said, they will all be incurred, expended, and recorded in Fund 80. Okay. Will the community program or service take place on school district property? Yes, it will. And the costs for those, as I keep reiterating, will be caught separate. Wages for workers, that's usually your most common place where people come into trouble with Fund 80. We are already separating our costs for workers. For instance, we have teachers and paras that work our CLC programs, which is a federal grant. We have to record those hours separately so that we already have systems in place that allow those employees to either time card or clock out of our timekeeping system and clock back in under after school. Our auditors have agreed fully that that is a complete separation and that would be adequate to continue under the Fund 80 rules. So we are keeping them cost. I did want to highlight that we will not be breaking out utility costs or custodial costs. Custodial costs would only be broken out to Fund 80 charges if they were events where we would not necessarily have custodial support services, like a Saturday event. Otherwise, we would always have custodian and utilities running in those buildings, so I would not want to get into the game of percentage costs of what we're going to have for those extra activities. Okay. The last question is, are the community programs and services expected to be self-sufficient? This can get tricky in how you want to interpret the rules. It will be made on each program individually. The first, they can be fully self-sufficient, meaning that we're charging community members to participate in it. That's what's implied saying it's self-sufficient with user charges. They can also be shared, where you pay a certain amount to use a program, but then it's also subsidized by tax levy, or it can be fully funded by the tax levy. That will, as I said, all be contingent on if we went with it and what kind of programs we're offering and how we want to offer those out. The before and after school care that we have talked about in the past was not expected to be self-sufficient, meaning we wouldn't be charging people to go to this, and it would be funded by local Fund 80 levy. Okay? There's a potential for program expansion to go into other things, other areas. In that way, we would also look at those programs to see if we wanted to charge fees or would they be funded themselves. So, are there any questions?
So if we charge, for example, dance classes or whatever, so then does the money generated from that activity then go back into Fund 80 to help fund other activities?
Absolutely. It would pay any workers, it would pay any cost associated with that, and then continue the program on. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Miller?
Thank you. When you were talking with DPI or doing your background on this, did it come up, are there like community advisories or just the community service nature of what Fund 80 is? Typically, how are programming choices determined and, how are they moved forward? Like, is it solely managed by the district or?
Okay. The Fund 80 and the programs would be the decision of the school board.
Okay.
But we would most likely take in community partners and look at what the community outreach programs are. And I would assume we would definitely want to have community involvement in deciding what we're going to offer out there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Mr. Wong?
So is the Fund 80 would be a tax levy, and is this something that is a one-time thing, or is this an ongoing thing, and then does it eventually have an end?
That would be completely up to the discretion of the board. You can have your Fund 80 as long as you would like, and you can discontinue your Fund 80. But your levy would be set every year if you wanted to have Fund 80 in that year or not. It would be an annual decision.
I have a question for you. If you were to overfund the Fund 80, so if we put aside more than we needed one year, what would happen to the money that's not there? Does it carry over
Yes.
to the next year?
Yep, it would have fund balance, and of course, you're going to be, try to be very cognizant of what you have in fund balance. You don't want to carry excess fund balance, like you have fund balance policies for your general fund. This program you would be looking at making it completely self-sufficient if you were carrying fund balance over and over.
So I'm just going to pull a number out. Let's say we ended up with $100,000 more than we needed one year. You're saying it goes to the fund balance, or it's considered fund balance and it stays right in that Fund 80?
It would be Fund 80 fund balance.
Okay, all right.
So you have lots
Thank
of
you.
different fund balances.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for this presentation.
Thank you.
Very informative. Appreciate it. All right. Next, we have a fiscal committee report by Mr. Winkleman, please.
Good evening. Fiscal Committee met last Tuesday and had 3 items on our agenda. Some purchase order reviews, which happened pretty quickly. We talked a little bit about the budget, the state budget, and kind of what our implications are. It's a little too soon to tell. Our budget is complicated, to say the least. It has people coming and going, and the state budget is still being worked out in some of those areas, so we're learning that. I think we are hopeful that it will be a benefit to us since the changes that were made by the legislature and the governor. Some good things were there, and we also lost some things in the process. So I think it's fair to say we're still sorting out the positives and the negatives to see where we balance out. We're hopeful that a couple of student pieces are a little bit higher than our first pass at budgets, but we'll see where that goes as we move through that and go. And remembering, budgets don't get established until October, and part of it is dependent upon the property values in this district and the number of students we have on our third Friday count. So again, I'll get on my horse and say no business in the world operates with their fiscal year starting in July and their revenue being budget set in October. Ask any business person that's crazy. So let's talk to our state legislatures and see if we can get that fixed. Budget. And then we had an update on Fund 80. We just had that review. We have a chance to have some questions. Again, I think I look at this, and I think people look at this as this is exploring an option that the state provides us. We have been criticized sometimes in the past for not using all of our state options. This is one that says we can explore this. We can see if it has a value for us. Clearly, the state presents it as an option for all school districts. Many school districts use it. Not everybody does. So it makes sense that we are doing our due diligence as a school district and as a board to fully explore it and see where we go. And that is where we are right now. My understanding is there's been nothing other than that. And the first step would be to have some type of a policy, so it makes sense that the board is working on that. And that was our fiscal meeting. Any questions?
Any questions, anyone? All right, thank you. And now infrastructure, Ms. Sanchez, please.
Okay. The Infrastructure Committee met on the 15th, which was last Monday. We did discuss some approval for hardware installation. We're looking at getting approval on allowing emergency operators and custodial workers to have like a one fob entrance, so they're not mingling with several different keys. We also had a discussion regarding the high school campus. It was just informational, just presenting things that some of the committee members noticed that could possibly be steps of that campus plan and not going to a specific phase. For instance, graduation and the flow of how traffic goes in and out of there, along with bleachers, and how the ones that are on the visitor side are not aligned, and there's kind of some scattering they have to do to get into a seat. We also had some discussion regarding signage and having signage as to what would lead you to the cafeteria, maybe in English and Spanish, because sometimes people come into the building, or even new students, and they have no idea where they're going. We did talk a little bit about parking and landscaping, just getting some ideas out there on what people on the committee saw were future maybe items that can be done versus going into an entire phase. We also did discuss possible committee restructuring, which we'll probably hear later on tonight. Just wanted to speak at a committee level about community members that currently sit on some of our committees, staff, and how the restructuring might change that, but still want to have input from those community members and staff members. Our next meeting will be on August 8th at 5 o'clock at the Operational Center on 4th Street.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Any questions? All right, and now we have Student Committee, Mr. Wong.
Students Committee met on Tuesday, July 20th at 4 p.m. And we had two topics of discussion, one that was discussed and I believe voted on earlier in the special meeting. I'll do this in reverse order. The specific graduation requirements for social studies. In the past, it has not been very specific, and in fact, it's not been specific at all. So the staff brought it forward, and they presented that to make it very specific, so it is part of the policy now. There was one exclusion that was added on, I believe, tonight, and that was with AP World History. So the second item was long overdue, and that was a material adoption for CTE class coursework. And Mr. Briesmeister presented material. I had the chance to look over a lot of the stuff. I thought it was it's very good material. He went through it step by step. This covers areas such as welding, construction, it gets into personal finance, a number of areas. A lot of these books, in fact, the construction books that we've had are 23 years old. So as you can imagine, they're quite outdated. The welding book that's being replaced is 15 years old, so that was, and that'll fit nicely with the work that's being done specifically with Blackhawk Tech. So our committee, as the infrastructure as well, was the discussion of the committee's restructuring was discussed and questions about that. I think that the staff that's been involved in the Students Committee, I've been very thankful for their knowledge and experience, and input has been well received, and I certainly hope as well that they are brought into the fold as in whatever committee's structures go forward at those levels. So, so that was the end of the students' meeting.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wong?
I actually do have a question. When you guys talked about the textbooks for...
Is your mic on?
Yeah, no, not at all, sorry. No teacher voice tonight. When you guys talked about the textbooks for welding, was there a discussion about like Blackboard and, you know, partnering with the technical college system? Because I know that there are some free materials, like free through the technical college system. I mean, I want to buy the textbooks. I'm just curious, was that discussed?
No, there wasn't.
Okay.
So I don't have an answer on that, but I can find that out and get back to you.
Cool, thank you.
All right, now we're at the consent agenda. If there's a motion to approve these meeting minutes, please.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, the consent agenda items are approved. And now we have approval of vendor for hardware installation. Mr. Winters?
Oh, wait. There might be a motion. Don't need a presentation. There might be a motion.
So no presentation?
I would move approval.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right, we have a motion and a
in our
second.
packet.
Is there any discussion? Does anyone need any explanation from Mr. Winters? No. Thank you anyway.
Perfect. We had one presentation. It's the goal, right?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Winkleman. Material adoptions for career and technical education.
I move approval. The committee has reviewed it. It sounded like they were all in favor, and it looked great from my perspective.
Okay. Is
I'll
there a
second.
All right. Any discussion on material adoptions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
I would like to try something here on C, D, and E. Hello, listen me out. If it doesn't work, tell me no. But I would move approval of C, D, and E. They're basically policy revisions and deletions regarding sexual harassment and how we keep our policies up to date and designed for employees and for students and for community. And it comes through legal. We've had a chance to review all this. Each one is in essence basically the same, but it just lands it in different places. And so I would move approval of C, D, and E. Second.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve policies listed under C, D, and E. Altogether,
I apologize for throwing the wrench in this. John, I really appreciate it. I just did have a quick question because Dr. Monroe had requests. I was confused about Dr. Monroe's in 511. So there is one that is crossed off. Were you wanting to keep that sentence in there where it says no position shall be filled until underrepresented persons, including but not limited to African Americans, Hispanics, Pacific Islanders, etc., women and persons with disabilities have been sought out and qualified candidates encouraged to apply? Were you wanting to leave that in, or was that left in and you're wanting it removed?
So what I wanted to look at is upon selecting candidates, would I then have to go back and make sure that every single one of these groups have been sought out? That's what I wanted clarification on.
I'd like to ask, okay, Michelle, you can probably help with this. A line going through things usually doesn't come for second reading, but it's here with a line going through it. So I think the confusion is, why is it on a second reading policy with a line through it?
Dr. Monroe had the question that he just asked, and that's why I put the line in it, so that the board would notice that there was a question about it.
Okay.
And whether or not it needed to be in there, or whether it could be taken out based on the fact that we open up our job postings to everybody.
Right.
And we post in certain newspapers and universities, and, you know, we seek out everywhere. So it's up to the board if they want to keep that sentence or not, and if you want to address his question, then
So if we keep it, we need to clarify what it means,
Yes.
basically.
that was the impression I got when Dr. Monroe was asking me the question.
So, John?
So that's not a new sentence, right? That's been there for a while. And my take on that, right, again, having read it a long time ago, is that the district needs to do due diligence to be reaching out. It's not a post necessarily. I mean, at some point, there's a review that a staff would normally do in HR to say, are we doing our due diligence? But we should also be able to articulate how we're reaching out to be able to make that happen. So if our net is cast wide enough, then that's great. But I think it's important that it's there. It says to us, we value this, it's important, and our outreach is there, as opposed to kind of the retrospective question that I think, that's my take, and maybe I'm the only one that thinks that way.
Okay, so I'd be in favor then of leaving it in.
Everyone else okay? Okay, so we'll leave that in. If you ever want to bring it back for more discussion, it can come back, but so on the table now is a motion to pass all of these policies at once. There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, so C, D, and E all pass with one motion. Now we have F, Policy 131, Board Elections for second reading. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of Policy 131, second reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay. And now we have Policy 141.1, Board Officer Elections. Is there a motion?
I move approval of policy 141.1, board officer elections for second reading.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on 141.1? All right, all in favor of passing 141.1, board officer elections, please say aye.
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 All right, the policy passes. Any opposed, say nay. Policy passes unanimously. Policy 171, regular board meetings. The only thing I'd like to say is I wonder if we could, this really does affect Dr. Monroe, and I wonder if we could, since it's second reading, if we could bump it back to another first reading just so that he would have a better understanding and able to give some input. I think he would appreciate that.
You can table it for,
Yeah,
until
let's
we get to the next meeting.
bring it back
I move to table till when?
till the next special meeting. Okay?
Yep.
All
I'm
right.
good with that.
Is there a second for that? Okay, any discussion? All in favor of tabling this until the next special meeting, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right.
Clarification, please. Who seconded? Thank you.
Okay.
What was revised on this?
Now we have the personnel recommendations.
I move approval of personnel recommendations Exhibit A as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approving personnel recommendations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Personnel recommendations pass unanimously. Future agenda items. Does anyone have anything? Ms. Miller?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I just noticed in our student-related policy revisions that while we did include sexual harassment policy, I have yet to see the assault policy come up. It came up at our last business meeting and the business meeting prior, so I would just like to see that one the next time we look at policy. And I'm happy to do any work, legwork associated with that. That's fine.
Do you have, you don't know what policy number that is that you're talking about?
I haven't looked it up.
Okay,
I
we'll find
apologize.
it.
Thank you.
All right, and I know another policy we need to look at is our field trip policy. That'll be coming up soon as well, probably next month. All right, anyone else? We're getting really good at these short meetings. Yeah. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.